Welcome to the Elite Build podcast, where we talk to construction leaders who have seen it all: the win, the pivot, the tough calls, and the talent that holds it all together. Today's guest, Nathan Bahrenburg, is a definition of a well rounded builder. He's moved across sector, oil field, commercial construction, and industrial piping, and led teams from field to boardroom. He's created systems from scratch, turned burnout to breakthrough, and exactly know what it takes to lead under pressure. Welcome to the show, Nathan. How's it going so far?
Great to be here, Wiki. Yeah, it's going very well so far. Having a great day, getting some production done here out in the field. So glad to be here with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time out to speak with me. So we'll dive right into our first segment. You recently moved from 7B building and development to the industrial space. What led you to that decision?
I think for me, I was at a point in my career where I was looking for a change, looking for a new challenge, wanted to be a part of another company that needed help in building their systems and getting things aligned. So yeah, just looking for that next step in my career.
Yeah, sounds like you made the kind of pivot that not only makes sense professionally, but personally too.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Been great for my family. So yeah, had, been away a lot, getting to be home a little bit more, things like that. So yeah, been great in all aspects.
Okay. You were open about burnout on a LinkedIn post, and I think that's where we connected as well. What triggered it, and how did you pull yourself out?
I think it kind of goes back to that career change again. I think for me, I just love having the challenge. Of course, I love having a creative space to be able to, build and create things. I think again, where I'd kind of gotten a little burnout was just I had lost kind of the passion for some things that I was doing there. Felt like I'd kind of reached, kind of the end of where I was being productive there in the ways that they needed me to be productive and create things for them, and kind of, getting into that just day to day kind of grind. Of course, that's anywhere you're going to have that. But I
Yeah.
think for me, it was, again, just needing that new challenge and just looking for that new thing to be able to continue to develop myself and everything else as well.
Excellent. I mean, it's one thing to to push through, but it's another to pause, reset, and come back stronger. So definitely that speaks volume.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and that's, and I had done that, of course, with 7B, I had done that quite a few times. Again, just, finding that way to pivot and shift and, be able to reignite that passion. So I did that quite a few times over there. Of course, done that with other companies. And that's when I finally got to the last one. I just knew that kind of, I wasn't able to do that at that point anymore where I was, and it was time to go to a new place. And that was going to be the pivot and that growth I needed to reignite kind of that passion, get out of that burnout, and be able to
Gotcha.
do those things that I need to do.
Yeah, definitely. I think that reset, and you've been there for almost 5 years now.
Yes, sir.
Four and a half, yeah, 4.5, 5 years. Excellent. What changed in how you lead after you going through that reset?
I think with any of that, obviously you just continue to evaluate any mistakes you made along the way. You got to continue to, again, see what you did wrong, how you can do it better, later on, take those lessons learned that you got throughout the experience and continue to apply those to whatever your new situation is. So yeah, I'm a big on personal introspective and always, paying attention to yourself, and what you need to do to just continue to get better.
Yeah, that's the kind of shift that leaves a lasting impact on everyone around you. Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely.
So you're
Well,
not, yeah,
and
go ahead.
sorry, I was just going to say, and a side note, that's kind of this shift to this new company was part of that relationship building. Again, I'd kind of, stepped away from 7B and was kind of in that, in between period, and just had, friends, people that I'd had those relationships with starting to reach out. And that's kind of where this new opportunity kind of, developed from. So yeah, that's, developing those relationships and building things and leaving a lasting impression, and, being the kind of person those people want to reach out to and provide those opportunities for is a huge
Yeah.
deal. What you look for to, continue to grow
It's
yourself.
always, at the end of the day, it's always those relationships that you nurture over the years, and you might not know our conversation today, how it leads from the next 5 years, right? So it's always small things throughout your career, throughout your tenure at different organization, help you build your future. And that's how the relationship now puts you in a spot where you are.
Yes, sir. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't tell you, of course, that's what life's about. Life's about that communication, that relationship
Yeah.
building, and whatever you're doing, whether it's personal, whether it's professional, you just got to keep, treating everybody the way that they should be treated, the way you want to be treated, so that you can build those connections, and you have those opportunities.
And building those relationships goes a long way as well. So excellent point, Nathan. Thank you. I'll dive into a little bit more about your leadership under pressure at 7B. I know you were managing 25 to 50 projects a year, building teams, shaping companies wide system. What's the key to staying steady in that kind of chaos? I mean, you were there for some time now, so I'm sure you had to create a system that kept you afloat.
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing with any of that stuff is creating, like you said, the system for how you're going to execute and do things. So whatever that is, again, whatever platform you're going to use, find the one that's going to work the best for your company and how you're going to operate in that. And then make sure everyone's trained on it, that they know how to use it. Again, having the steps of, okay, if I get to this point, what do I do at that point? And having that guideline of, okay, hey, we're going to take a step back from this. I know that things can be an emergency, all that stuff, but if you let yourself get drug into those situations instead of stepping back away from, giving yourself a second to pause and evaluate how we can really attack this effectively and efficiently, you're just going to keep getting yourself in a bad spot. You're going to let yourself get burnout. You're going to let yourself get overwhelmed. So, and letting everybody know, again, if we're in these situations, who do I communicate to? How do I communicate those things? What are the preferred methods? And then also understanding and identifying how each person does prefer that communication and how that works. So again, it's, hey, step one is we're going to send out the email. Okay. That doesn't get out there. I don't get the answer back in this amount of time. Okay. That's when I pick up the phone. If I don't get them on the phone, I'm going to shoot out a text. So what are those steps that we're going to take to make sure that communication gets across the line and everybody's on the same page? That's kind of how I always handled it, was just making sure that we know if we get in whatever situation, whatever's going on, we know how to communicate that. We know how to work through it, and we know what the steps are to get through that.
So keeping communication and transparent communication throughout the chaos was the most important thing, and making sure everyone is aware of what's going on. So at the end of the day, everybody's on the same page, pretty much.
Exactly.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, what you described is the kind of leadership that gives teams space to breathe even when the deadlines are tight.
Right, exactly. And giving all those
Yeah,
guys voices. I mean, that's the thing. There's going to be things, whether if you're in a leadership level, you want to give the guys under you a voice. So if there's something that's not working, if
that's
there's
true.
something that needs to be adjusted or tweaked or, anything like that, you give those guys the room to voice those things and explain it and give their argument of why it's better, or why we can do it in a different way. And then, give them that power. And then if their way's better, okay, let's create a system out of that, of how we can all communicate. If everybody's on that same page and they all enjoy that, let's make it happen. So
Yeah,
give them the guys
exactly.
power.
On a side to that, Nathan, one thing that I like to always say to my audience is true leadership is all about listening. Once you listen to the people as well, you walk into the room full of people and you're ready to listen. That's where you will understand where the opportunities lies, what's going on, what can we do different, how we can make things better.
Exactly. And that's
Yeah.
what I've heard from everyone at every level has been, what is the most important thing to you? And it's really, a lot of times it's just being heard. It's just
Yes.
being
Agree.
able to communicate and understanding that communication went through the whole path to where it was actually listened to. You get a response back, that everything goes through the whole communication process so that they feel heard. And
Right.
that's the biggest thing that was hurting a lot of the guys, or hurts a lot of the guys in the field, especially if you got a superintendent on site. Usually they're out there, they're on their own. If you're
Yes.
doing, a smaller commercial project, you got one superintendent on there. Of course, if you have a bigger one, you're going to have more superintendents, assistant superintendents, all that stuff. If you're doing small commercial, you're going to have one superintendent out there, and then you got a bunch of subcontractors if you don't self-perform your work. And so that guy's on an island by himself. So if he doesn't feel like he's heard and he's able to effectively run his project, and he's able to communicate with the office and all his leaders, then he's going to get burnout. He's going to get upset. You're going to have that turnover. And that's just going to keep happening. So yeah, that communication
Yeah.
piece, I feel like, is, paramount to success in any industry.
I agree 100%, Nathan, because when they're not being valued, they're going to start looking for opportunities elsewhere where they are being heard and they're being valued. Obviously, because superintendent is an integral part of the team. If they are running a commercial project, a small commercial project, they're the only one on the ground, on the field, looking at what's going on. So they want to be heard. You need to be hearing to what they have to say because they are the one who are going through and understand how we can make the process better and how we can make things better. And what's a leadership moment where things didn't go plan and how did you grow from it
Oh,
over the years?
leadership moment. I'm sure there's quite a few.
It's kind of like a tricky interview question.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think probably leadership moment. Again, I think it's really that let's I'd say it's probably that again letting loose of I guess some of the reins and letting the guys kind of run some of that stuff, letting that delegation
Okay.
happen. I think I have been one of those guys in the past who I need want it done my way. Here's how it needs to be set up, and here's how it needs to go, and all that stuff, and not letting the guys figure out and make their own mistakes, things like that. That's some stuff I've done in the past that I learned again the hard way. Is that if you do that, for one, you're stealing the guys' power and their ability to grow and their ability to be effective
Correct.
and continue
Agreed.
to help your organization help themselves. So yeah, I think that was probably one of the hardest lessons that I've learned.
Okay. Awesome. From safety programs to KPI dashboards, you have created a lot of systems from scratch. Where does that builder mentality come from? Is that something you had early on in your career, or is that something you continue to build while you work in that field?
That's something that I continued to build. Yeah, that was a course I'd, went to college, got the bachelor's, got the master's, all that good stuff. But
Okay.
I mean,
Wow.
honestly, I don't think a lot of that formal education gives you as much as when come into companies. And again, I think that a good company is one that allows you the freedom. And I think a lot of my stuff has come from, hey, I believe I can do this for you. I believe I can make this happen. And let me tinker with it. Let me see what I can do for you. Let's go. And if they said yes, then I got to start tinkering that stuff and making it happen, and continue to grow myself. I do the research, take the time out of even my personal time just to figure out and make it happen. And I love that. I love to I'm a learner, so I love to learn new
Yeah.
things. Love to share those new things with other people. I get excited when I finish a spreadsheet. So it's
Hey,
you know
you're building it for the other people to come use it, right?
yeah.
So you're building a framework that others can rely on. I think that's something that's powerful, and that's how you create a legacy of your work for people to come and follow.
Yeah, it's just that helpful nature, and again, trying to again push that in the team, and give them those opportunities. I mean, that was some of the fun stuff of outside of my construction background. I also was a teacher for a while, a middle school teacher,
Oh,
and
wow.
so I mean, I truly do love I love teaching others. I love growing others, and so that's kind of something that I had a passion for, is teaching others, and I just kind of took that in and put it in the construction industry and just kind of grew it while I was here.
That is also one of the capabilities of a true leader, of teaching other, passing on the knowledge that you have to others to so they can go into the industry and become a better version of themselves. And we were diving into segment 3 to discuss your perspective and your experience with hiring talent and what leadership really looks like when it comes to building a team. You have built a lot of construction in commercial and industrial sector. So wanted to dive a little bit more into your understanding of what it looks like when it comes to hiring. So what's the first thing that you look for when deciding if someone is a right fit or not beyond the resume? What stands out in a candidate, and what's a no-no for you when you're looking to interview these people?
I'd say the biggest thing, of course, is going to be the attitude. So that's something that you can't. I mean, you can coach, you can help with it, but it takes a long time on some of those things. But people either have the right attitude or they don't on a lot of things. They either understand, the right way to do things. They want to do things the right way. They want to keep growing. They want to keep learning. And they're looking for opportunities, things like that, or they're not. So, I mean, really, it's the attitude at the end of the day. I think that I look for people who never want to stop growing is my biggest thing. And again, that goes to asking, the people, getting to know them on a personal level, where their hobbies, what do they like to do outside of work? What are the things that interest them? So those are the things that I kind of really look at rather than just the resume, because, in this day and age, there's so much information out there, and so many experienced people. I mean, we can train anybody to do almost anything these days fairly quickly. Really, again, takes time for some of the experienced things, but the attitude and the right way of looking at things, and interacting and reacting to things, that's the biggest thing I look for.
Correct. I agree. Having that grit, having the compassion to be able to go out and get things done. Experience is something that can come with as you continue to grow, but you can always train individual if they don't have the necessary background. But as long as they understand the basic understanding and having the right experience, that goes a long way. But I think grit is most important in any work environment. Having that grit allows you to be able to go a long way.
Right, exactly. And I mean, it's the
Yeah,
same thing with experience in these guys. You can get somebody who's been doing something for 30 years. And if that person doesn't, want to release the information in their head, they don't want to teach others, they want to be that person who's the most important person on the site that you can't live without and all that stuff. That's not going to help your company. That's not going to help you on your team. Again, if that same person, been doing it for 30 years, he wants to pour into other people, he wants to build people up, then again, that's where we pass on to this next generation. Because again, in
correct.
construction, it's getting harder and harder to get people who want to come out here and do the work. And so, those guys have to let go of that information and pour into the guys below them, and get their experience up as quickly as possible so that we have more experienced people in this field.
Correct. And that's when the leadership comes in as well, right? If you have that leadership traits, if you have the team player trait, you're always looking to share your knowledge and your information down to your junior staff and
Yeah.
junior members.
And my
Correct.
goal is always, and what I tell the guys of my teams is that, for me, the goal is that we all walk in a room, and nobody know who the leader is, because we all look the same. We all seem like the leader of the group. We all have that strength and that mindset when we walk into a room and people look at us.
Yeah, excellent. I think that's a great trait to have. So everybody feels they have a different type of responsibilities, but they're part of the same team and no one is superior than the others, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Did you have the chance to work with recruiters while you were working for 7B development or in the past? And what makes you pay attention to a recruiter who's looking to reach out for work?
Not a whole lot of experience with recruiters. We had in-house teams, kind of a lot of the places I've worked at. So that's kind of how we've handled it. I worked with a couple of recruiters kind of in between, jobs and things like that. The big thing, of course, that I don't think anybody likes is when recruiters have the AI, spamming that goes on, and then try and get a resume person and all that stuff. Obviously, those are the ones that kind of just are going to irritate you, and there's no way you want to work with those people. But I mean, I think I look at it, I guess with recruiters, it'd be the same way as, going to go buy a car, is they make the process, simple, easy. They're relatable. They're not trying to lie to you or jerk you around or any of that stuff. They're just honest, straightforward, what they can do, what they can't do, and just, make it work for both sides.
And try to create a relationship. I think that's most important. Don't make it a transactional process. Try to have a value driven relationship where you can add to their team what you're seeing in the market, what are the trend looks like, and educate the organization and firm as well. This is going to work. This is not going to work. This is how I can help. And this is what have worked for me in the past. Don't be afraid to share your experience and your knowledge with the hiring managers. I think that's what I've seen that goes long way as well. Trying to just create a more of a valuable relationship and have a transparent communication between what you're seeing in the market, what's working for you, what's not working for you, instead of just coming out as a transactional, one transaction and be done and never see that face again. I don't think that's a way to go about it, right? It's always having the understanding of what the client is looking for, what their culture looks like, and what is exactly the type of skills and requirement they're looking for. If they're looking for commercial construction experience, who has done retail, who has done ground up, and who has been in the area for 5, 10 years, don't start sending them resumes that are relevant to residential, right? So these are the small things I think that go a long way as well, understanding what the requirements are and how you can build a valuable relationship.
Well, I think it's yeah, and it's partially intuition, with all that stuff. Like we said, yeah, the trust and the honesty, it's a huge part, and that's part of building that relationship. Having intuition. Sometimes people don't know exactly what they need, and so listening to them and understanding, okay, here's kind of what you're saying, but here's kind of you're kind of veering off a little bit this way and a little bit that way, and so I see that there's some inconsistencies what you're saying, and so I'm using my intuition to see that, hey, maybe there's a candidate or somebody that might be a little bit outside of this box that would work. Of course, not just throwing, completely random things. And again, you can kind of go back to, to buying a car, and a person goes there to buy a truck, and you're trying to sell them uh, uh, electric vehicle or something like that. Like, don't go
Yeah.
that far out of the box, but understand, like, okay, well, maybe this kind of option in the truck or something like this is something that may make more sense for them or work better for them where they're at in life or whatever. Same thing with people and, recruiting and, hiring.
Yeah, that's true. I agree 100%. And I think that's where a lot of recruiters in the field sometimes do miss the mark because of the AI and the focus on more of a quantity instead of quality and see whatever sticks. And if it sticks, great. I've made the transaction. But what I've learned over the years that creating a relationship and being a value asset for the organization goes a long way. They might not have a position for you to work on right away, but they will remember the relationship that you created. And once they do need any support from external agency, you will be the first name they will remember, right? Because
Right.
of the value that you have created and the relationship that you have created and how you handle the communication, what helps you become different than rest of the herd, pretty much.
Right, exactly. There's the
Yeah.
two techniques: the people who spend the time and the effort into building a relationship and making something better, and there's the again the old sales technique where you just carpet bomb, send out as many calls and as many things as you possibly
Yeah.
can to try and get that business. So
And see whatever sticks, right? Whatever
exactly.
sticks. Yeah, yeah, that exactly what it is. So you mentioned you have not had any prior relationship with the recruiters before, so I will skip to that because you had a lot of internal recruiters that were helping you fill the positions. So being in a leadership role when you're hiring for superintendent, project managers, or even safety directors, what separates the great from the good in your perspective?
Great from the good. Again, it's goes back to that attitude. Like I said, there's a lot of times, and when you first go through it, you're kind of looking for the experience, and you're thinking, okay, I picked the right guy with the right experience. And eventually, you kind of land on more about it. It doesn't really matter how long someone's been in the industry or what they feel like they know. Again, they don't know how to translate that into being effective at what you need them to do or continue to grow and learn how you do it really as a company. Then it really doesn't matter what they've done in the past. It's not going to translate. It's not going to help you. So yeah, the guys that just come in, they just want to learn. They want to know what you have to teach them, and they want to continue to, again, some of the older guy, older generations who want to come in, and it's like, hey, I'm not great at technology, but teach me, and I'll want to learn. I want to be a part of that. And you teach them, send them through the course they need and all that stuff, and spend the time with them, and they love it, and they keep growing, and they get better, and they're again, you're adding value to their lives, they're adding value to your life. And so just yeah, that attitude of people that just want to keep doing better, keep growing. Yeah, that's the main thing.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, being able to have the flexibility to open and learn new things. I think that goes a long way as a trait for someone because that shows how much value they're trying to put into their new position to learn the new skills, right? So the line between good and great is a razor thin, but clearly you know how to spot it. And I think that's what allows you to build a great team for long term because those are the people that have flexibility, that are learning, that are adaptable, and that are open to learning new skills are going to be with you for long term because as you know construction industry always evolving with a lot of new technology coming in and a lot of new softwares are being introduced nowadays as well, and the people who are adamant about their traditional ways of doing things will get left behind. And I think
Right.
that's why it's very important for individuals to be able to learn new things and be adaptable and be flexible and be open to new suggestion, new feedback, and understanding how things are working for others, how you're going to be able to add value to that as well. Great.
Absolutely.
Awesome. I did have one more thing for this segment. I know if a person is to reach out to you, what is the best way to earn your trust instead of us being able to come out as a spam or robo calls or robo emails? Like, what is the best way to get your interest or get noticed in an organization like yourself? Because you have a lot of busy schedule and it's hard to get by. There's a lot of emails coming in as well. There's a lot of phone calls happening for you as well. So how do one differentiate from rest of the crew? How do we come across differently in order for us to, see how to make things better? Not just spamming is obviously we're trying to get rid of in the industry. We don't want to spam, but there's a lot of things that you don't get a response from, and there's value that you can add to organizations and firms having the experience in the industry.
Yeah, and I'd say it's, having that genuine interest. Again, that's part of that communication that, building trust is, if you show, true interest in something or someone, what's going on, you're really, paying attention and you care about, what's going on. Again, you took the time to, read, my posts, and you took time to, dig into some of this stuff and us talk and all that. And so those are the things, I mean, that makes a huge difference, than just hitting delete on the, carpet bombing of all the robots and all that good stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, it definitely goes a long
Right.
way to
Yeah.
just actually show some interest and take some time.
Yeah, right now there's softwares out there you can send 100,000 emails on automated through AI. And believe it or not, the deliverability results might be high, but actual client response back is less than 0.5%. Because these are going to spam, or these are generic emails that have no customization, no personalization. If you end up sending thousands of emails, what type of result you're going to expect, because you haven't done the research. You don't know what the client is looking for. You don't know what the pinpoint of their problems are. How can you come in and add a value? So I think it's more about quality instead of quantity. Being able to understand what the client is looking for, understand what the industry they're in, and how you can add value, and being able to really genuinely care what you just said. I think would go a long way on creating a relationship with these and partnering up with firms like yourself.
Right. It's all about that long-term value for everybody.
Correct.
Again, whoever is providing long-term value for you and them doing the same, again, it's a partnership. All these sorts of things are
Correct.
partnerships. And so that's
Correct.
the way you got to
Correct.
look at it.
And
Otherwise, yeah, you
and
may have some numbers, like you said, with those things eventually, when you send out enough of them, but that's going to be a fleeting thing, and it may happen once, and then you got to go find a new person or whatever it is. So the value
correct.
isn't really there.
Correct, correct. I agree. And I've heard from other agencies as well. If they want to work with an external recruiter, they only want to work with one who understands them and who really understand their culture and values what they're looking for, and provide that quality relationship and be transparent, because no one wants to keep going to different recruiters, right? If you find a one, you want to stick with it and you want to keep them on your side whenever you need something, pretty much.
Exactly. I mean, it's the same thing in any job. Whenever I was an estimator, and then I, moved on from being an estimator to a different position and so on and so forth, those guys still all called me, when they had a problem, when they had an
Yeah.
issue that they wanted solved, or they wanted to, talk about a deal or get more work or anything. They call me every time. And it's because of that relationship we had built. And, they have that trust in me and I had that trust in them. And so, I mean, it's the same way with, yeah, recruiting or anything else.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. Thanks so much for your take on that, Nathan. I think it was very valuable intakes on it so far. We'll dive into our last segment, which is segment four: culture, grit, and growth. You have worked in high stakes projects, fast paced sectors. What does the real culture looks like on a job site?
Real culture, I mean, again, real culture is that communication. It's everybody understanding what they have to do, being on the same mission and being able to execute on that mission because everybody's on the same page. They're out there to be professionals. They're out there to do a job and take care of things. They're out there to help each other. Really, that's the thing is that, my superintendent should be out there trying to help them, in understanding if the plumber and the electrician are button heads, that you got to figure out a way for them to get back on the same page and help each other out. You got to continue to build that culture and that faith as a team, that everybody is here to create success for everybody else's company, so that in the end we're all successful, we all hit our deadlines, we all make money, everybody's happy.
Yeah. And I think another trait would be respect. Having the respect for each other would go a long way. And that's the kind of culture you feel when you walk onto the site without needing a value poster on the trailer walls, right? You would see that automatically, and the positive energy that each individual is passing on to the rest of the team to make that a bigger movement.
Exactly.
Yeah, awesome. How do you spot, this is something you notice yourself as well. How do you spot the early sign of burnouts on your team? Is it related to not having a proper communication, or do you feel like there's something else to it as well?
Yeah, I mean, everybody can have has their different thing that burns them out. So it may not be communication, it may not be getting support, it may not be getting challenged, it may be, a number of any things can cause someone to lose interest. Which, at the end of the day, it's like Gary V. He says, I mean, if you love what you do, you don't really burn out. So if you keep that passion and
That's true.
continue getting that support and everything else, you're not going to have that same burnouts. There's some root cause that may be, again, you didn't like this career in the first place. You're in the wrong career. Who knows what it is? So that's causing you to burn out. And it's not just the long hours or difficult circumstances. It can be any number of those things. So really just diving in and finding out what beyond the surface layer thing that is causing the burnout is really, the deep root reason for that burnout.
Correct. It could be relationship driven. It could be not being valued, or it could be not being heard. There could be different different, root cause to that problem. So identifying that root cause early on would help you overcome those challenges, and being able to, figure that out before it's too late. And you're describing exactly what it means to lead with awareness and empathy.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Outside of work, what fuels your sense of purpose or refills the tank? I know you touched on it a little bit on your post, but I wanted to
Yeah, I
ask you.
mean,
Yeah.
I've got way too many hobbies is my problem. So yeah, I go out to the mountains. I love going hiking, mountain biking. Also do scuba diving, and love wake
Wow.
surfing and getting out on the lake. And yeah, lots of different things. I got way too many hobbies. So
That's
usually
good.
getting to one of those.
Well, that's great to have, because you need hobbies to be able to, give you the refill and give you the reset of what you're looking for, so you can come back after having spent the time on your hobbies. So your energy is ready to go and be productive. Scuba diving, that's an interesting one. Have you been to Caribbean side of the world to do scuba diving there, or not yet?
I have not. I've actually, only been scuba diving in the U.S. So I've done a lot of, cave and cavern diving. I've done, offshore. I've done all kinds of different types of lakes and old quarries and things.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, a lot of interesting stuff. But yeah, not over in the Caribbean or anything like that. One of
What
these
was the
days.
most what was the most interesting spot in the US, or you feel like that was so magical for you?
I think a couple of the coolest places were the cave and cavern dives out in Florida. So
Okay.
you could go out there and there'd be you'd walk up and there may be a small little lake looking thing right there, and you wouldn't think anything of it. And one of them was like almost really in someone's backyard, almost
Oh,
maybe 50
really?
foot across, looked like nothing. You drop down and it's just this big mushroom cave. And then you went further in and it just opened up into this huge cavern. I mean, hundreds of feet across. They had a diving bell down there that you could go up in and actually just sit out there and kind of look around the whole place and everything. So it was a very cool spot. So yeah, I would definitely recommend cavern diving out in Florida to anybody.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, there's clear water as well. I've been to Key West, all the way to Key West in Florida, but never been to scuba diving that part of the world. Have not done that. I've done skydiving. I've done a lot of nature hike in Colorado. Went to the Smoky Mountains, Pikes Peak. We drove up all the way to the Pikes Peak in Colorado. That was altitude of 14,000. I love to explore new places, new culture, and what God has created for us.
Absolutely, I agree
Yeah,
100%.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think that that's really, I mean, and I think that's what a lot of us don't get enough of. And I think that's, I mean, for me, that's definitely probably my biggest recharge is going to the mountains,
yeah.
honestly. And that's kind of one of the things I did between my last job. Is I took about, a few months off, and I had bought a piece of land up in New Mexico near the Taos region, and ended up
Okay.
building my own cabin by hand up there, and just stayed there for the winter, and went snowboarding and just enjoyed life out in the mountains. So
Well, yeah, that's the only way you know you're from construction side if you know how to build things. If you're not gonna be able to build things, then hey, you're not in the right industry or right sector. Awesome.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. So, Nathan, we'll dive into our final, which is a rapid fire round questions. It has to be quick answers for those. You don't need to go into more detail. What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Pretty much one habit or ritual that keeps you sharp.
Oh, working out.
Working out.
Yep.
Most underrated leadership trait.
Probably honesty.
Honesty. What would you tell your 25-year-old Nathan?
Keep at it.
Keep at it. Keep the grit. Keep the energy. Keep the momentum.
Absolutely.
What's one bold move you were glad you made?
I mean, I think that honestly, whenever I felt God leading my heart and just pulling the trigger, I think that anytime I've ever done that, it's always led to great things. So I think anytime.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Nathan, thank you so much for your time. Your story is definitely something that we can learn a lot from because it's real. You have lived it. You have lived the stress, made the pivot, and came back with more clarity. Thank you so much for sharing your insight so generously, where we can come in and learn and be a better version of ourselves every day, in and out. And I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for your time out on reconnecting with me. I'm sure